Virgo, think about what that means for a moment before I say anything else. Think about what it actually means for someone to decide that what exists between them and another person requires not a text, not a call, not an email, not any of the digital distances that are so available and so comfortable for the kind of reaching out that allows the person reaching to maintain a certain buffer between themselves and the full exposure of physically being somewhere and being seen there in the particular vulnerability of someone who came because they needed to come and could not find any other way to say what needed to be said from the protected distance that digital communication allows. Think about what it means to choose physical presence over every other available option. Welcome, and let me tell you everything about why this person is planning to show up at your door. And showing up is different from reaching out. I want to establish that immediately because the distinction matters enormously for understanding what this means and why I am treating it with the level of significance I am. Reaching out is something most people can do, even when what they want to say is significant or exposing or uncertain in terms of how it will be received. Because reaching out digitally from the physical safety of wherever they are allows a version of the communication that is slightly managed, slightly edited, slightly less than the full vulnerability of the thing they are trying to communicate. Because digital distance, even when the words are honest, provides a buffer that physical presence does not. Showing up is different. Showing up means the person is there in the actual physical space of your life with the full weight of their physical presence and the full vulnerability of having come, which cannot be retracted, cannot be unsent, cannot be followed by the careful deletion of something that felt too exposing after it was sent, but before it was received. The person who shows up has committed to the showing up fully in the most irreversible form of communication available between two human beings who have something significant to say to each other that has not yet been said in the full form it deserves to be said in. Whew. I want to build the picture for you slowly because you deserve to understand everything that is happening in this person. That has produced the decision to show up at your door rather than everything else that was available to them. In terms of how they could make contact, if contact was what they needed, they have tried in the other ways, or they have considered trying and found that the other ways did not feel adequate to the size of what they need to say or to the particular quality of honesty they have decided they owe you in whatever form this is coming and whatever has created the need for it, because the decision to show up at someone's house rather than in any of the cushioned and buffered ways that our era provides for the expression of difficult or vulnerable or significant things always comes from the same place: the recognition that what needs to be said requires the full and unmanaged version of the person saying it to be present in the full and unmanaged space of the person receiving it, for the saying of it to carry what it needs to carry. I want to tell you who this person is by energy rather than by name, because the energy description will allow you to recognize them in your own life with the full information that you have about the people in your orbit that I do not. This is someone who does not show up easily. In the physical sense, this is not a person for whom showing up is a default behavior or a comfort zone or the thing they do when they want to communicate something, because showing up always felt natural to them. This is someone for whom showing up represents a significant departure from how they normally operate in the territory of the difficult or the vulnerable or the significant, who normally finds ways to manage the distance between what they feel and the full expression of what they feel in a form that requires the other person to actually be there in the room to receive it. The fact that they are planning to show up tells you, before they have said a single word, what the showing up is about. It is about something too large for the managed distance, something that has become larger than their normal comfort zone, for the expression of significant things. And that requires the most direct form of expression available, which is physical presence in your actual space, at your actual door. Now I want to tell you why, because that is the other half of the title. This is why, and the why is the part that carries everything you need to know about how to receive what is coming when it arrives in the form of a person at your door. The first reason is that what they need to say cannot be said in parts. It requires the whole form, the uninterruptible form of someone who is physically present and whose presence itself communicates something about the seriousness of what they have come to say before a single word has been spoken. A text can be read and put down and returned to and processed at a safe distance from the full impact of its content. A call can be ended or left unanswered or received from behind the particular buffer that the physical absence of the other person from the space where you are receiving the call always provides. Even in the most honest call between two people, a person at your door cannot be processed at a safe distance, cannot be left unanswered in the same way, cannot be received from behind the buffer of physical absence. They are there in the full form of their being there, and what they have to say arrives in the full form of someone saying it from inside the same physical space as the person receiving it, which is the most complete form of communication available to human beings, and the one this person has decided is necessary for what they have to say. The second reason they are planning to show up is accountability, the specific kind that can only be offered in the form of physical presence, because accountability requires witness. And the most complete form of witness is the person you owe the accountability to being physically present to receive it in the full form of their presence, rather than from behind any of the distances. That make the accountability slightly easier to give, because the discomfort of being fully present in the face of someone you owe something to is not there. When the accountability is offered digitally in the way it is there, when the accountability is offered in person, face to face, at their actual door, this person is choosing the discomfort of the most accountable form, because what they owe you deserves the most accountable form, and they know that, which is itself a significant change from whoever they were when whatever happened between you. The third reason is love, not the comfortable kind, not the kind that expresses itself in the ways that are easy or convenient, or that maintain a comfortable dynamic between two people where both of them know that the expression is genuine, but that neither of them has had to extend themselves beyond what was comfortable to offer it the love that drives someone to show up at your door when showing up is not their comfort zone, and when what they have to say is not easy to say, and when the outcome of the saying is not guaranteed, is the love that has exceeded every comfortable alternative, and that has produced as its natural result the only action left when comfortable alternatives are no longer sufficient for the size of what is felt. They are showing up because they love you in the specific and demanding form that makes showing up necessary, because everything else was too small for what is actually true in them about you. I want to speak now about what happens at the door, because I think you need to be prepared, not in the defensive sense, but in the sense of knowing what the moment is going to require of you when it arrives, so that you can give it what it requires, rather than being caught unprepared by the size of what the showing up represents. The door opening is the moment, not what comes after it. The door opening and seeing who is on the other side, and understanding in the first second of seeing them that they came, that they are there in the physical space of your life with whatever they have come to say, waiting to be said. That first second is the most important one because what you do with it sets the quality of everything that follows. What I want you to do with it is simply be in it without the immediate management of the surprise of it, without the protective reorganization of your self and your response into something that reveals less than the first second actually produced in you, which was something real and honest and proportionate to the significance of someone who chose to come to your door rather than to any of the easier options that were available to them. Let the first second be what it is. Without management, it is the most honest moment of everything that is about to happen between you. Let it be honest. Whew. I want to give you something to hold. For the moment of opening the door, a single thing that will orient you correctly in the most significant moment of what is coming. They came. That is the thing to hold. However the conversation goes, whatever is said or not said, or said imperfectly, in the particular way that real things are always said slightly imperfectly, because the language available to us is always slightly smaller than the thing we are trying to say with it. Remember that they chose the most exposed form of expression available to say something to you that they could not find a smaller way to say, and that in itself, before any word has been spoken, tells you everything you need to know about the weight of what they are carrying toward your door. I also want to say something about what you deserve in this moment, because I think it is easy when someone shows up with something significant to become so focused on them and on what they are bringing that you lose track of what you need from the moment, as well as what they are offering. You deserve honesty, the specific honesty of someone who came in person rather than digitally, because the thing they have to say requires the most honest form of expression available. You deserve to receive that honesty in its full form without the managing of it into something more comfortable for the person delivering it that makes it slightly less honest in the receiving than it is in the intention. Ask for what you need. If what you receive in the first form it is delivered is not quite the full version of what the showing up promised, you are entitled to the full version. Someone who showed up can give the full version, and you deserve to receive it. I want to speak about something that I think is going to be present in the room in the first minutes after the door opens, that can either serve the conversation or work against it, depending on how it is held. The history between you is going to be present, not just in what is said, but in the space between you, in the specific way that history between two people who have been in something significant together is always present. Even when it is not being directly addressed, the history can work for you in this conversation if you let it be the context that gives what is being said, its full weight, and its full meaning, because what is being said is being said against the background of everything that came before, and the before makes the now more significant than it would be without it. Or the history can work against you. If it is brought into the conversation as evidence for an argument or as the ledger of everything that was done or not done, that now requires accounting before the present can be addressed. Let the history be the context, not the subject of the conversation that begins. When the door opens, let what is being offered now be received in the present with the context of the history, informing how you understand it, but not dominating or preventing or complicating what is actually being offered right now by someone who came because coming was necessary. I also want to say something about the aftermath. The hours and days after the door conversation, because the conversation is important, but it is not all of what is happening. When someone shows up at your door with what they have come to say, what comes after the conversation is the integration of what was said into the understanding you have of what is between you and what is possible between you going forward based on the full picture that the showing up and the conversation and what was said in it have provided. Give that integration the time it needs. Do not rush to conclusions or decisions or the next move before the full impact of what happened has had the chance to settle into the understanding that can only be had after the immediate moment has passed and what was said has had the time to become known in its full form rather than in the first impression form of something just received that has not yet settled into the permanent knowledge of something fully integrated. Take that time and then decide from the most complete and honest version of yourself that the time and the integration produce what you want to do with what the showing up offered you. Because I want the last thing I say to be the most important thing and the most honest, the showing up. Regardless of what is said when the door opens, regardless of what the conversation produces or does not produce, or where it goes, or what it leaves resolved and unresolved between two people who have something between them that required someone to cross the physical distance and stand at a door and knock. The showing up is itself the statement before anything is said. The showing up says, you matter enough for me to be here in the most present and exposed form of being here that exists. Receive that statement in the fullest possible form of what it means, which is someone decided that what exists between them and you is worth crossing every comfortable distance for, including the physical one. which is the most demanding distance to cross because it requires the full presence of the person crossing it with no buffer between themselves and the reality of being somewhere because they chose to be there for someone who matters to them enough to make that choice. Huh. They are coming to your door with everything they have decided needs to be said in person without the buffer, without the managed distance, with the full weight of showing up as the statement itself. Open the door and let what has been decided finally be said in the most honest form available between two human beings who have something real between them that deserves to be addressed in the most real and present form available, which is this: face to face at your door with nothing between you but the air and the weight of what has been decided and the truth of why they came.